Hello and welcome to With Whom on Zoom. My name is Amy Clulo and my guest today is Jessie Perez, an author of Colour by Design, a seasoned business analyst, a degree in global business, and she has kindly agreed to talk to us today. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, your book, Colour by Design, I just wondered if you could give us a little information about that. What's it about? Specifically, the colour approach aspect of it.
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of neat. I always, have been a people watcher, just even growing up. Some people just do that. Try to figure out, why people do what they do. And one day I had the opportunity to actually become a certified temperament consultant. And so actually dive into the science behind why people do what they do. And I started providing workshops for big corporate organizations to help use that for team building and building relationships within those organizations. But what I realized is that this information, like it touches every part of our life, not just in the workplace, And most people had no idea and didn't have access to this kind of training because, well, I mean, they didn't have anybody bringing in a trainer to come and teach them about it. So I said, well, gosh, man, how can I reach the world with something? And just as myself, I can't do a workshop for everybody. I said, but if I wrote a book, then anybody can have access to this and it could really change their lives. And so basically the idea is if anybody's ever taken like a Myers-Briggs assessment or something like that, it's based off of the same science. The science is not new. It's been refined and worked down into really digestible chunks over like hundreds of years. And so really what it kind of breaks down to is that the way the colors approach kind of comes in is it makes it so much easier than like a whole bunch of letters that nobody can remember what they mean. And so there's green, gold, orange, and blue. And every person is a full spectrum. It's not like one person is just this color or just that color, but you're going to really lead with one of your brightest colors. And that's going to define why you do what you do, why you think how you think, what you care about, your stressors, all kinds of things, even things that you're naturally good at because you're leading with that color. And everybody else who leads with that color, regardless of where they come from in the world, will have those same characteristics and, matching. It's really cool. And so that was kind of the reason I said, like, let's write a book about this. Like, let's get this into everybody's hands and in a way that anybody can understand. And what's really important to me is that it's not just like an assessment. It's like, oh, that's cool information. Like, I really break it down and make it applicable to life to where you can actually apply it and use it and you can see results from it. And I'm a teacher at heart. I'm not a teacher by trade, but I'm a teacher at heart. And I just love to be able to take information, bring it to you in a way that just really simplifies it, makes it really easy to understand and then use. So
it's fantastic. So the actual colours, how would you go about finding what colour you are? A little bit selfishly asking for myself. I want to know what colour I am.
yeah. Well, the neat thing is, you don't have to go up to somebody and be like, here, can you please take this assessment so I can learn you? Because that would be really awkward. Don't do that. But like when you're talking to somebody, what they say, how they say it, the things that they like is going to lead you to understand a color about them. But if it's yourself, you don't have to ask those questions because you already kind of know yourself, right? And so if you think about there's certain key defining things of each of the different colors. And so I'll kind of go through those a little bit and you'll start to be like, I connect with that a little bit, or oh, that's not me. So like orange is very kind of fly by the seat of your pants. Like I love change. I can't have a plan that's the same every day because I will go crazy. Like I like to be in the spotlight. I love to have fun. Everything about life is fun. Like I don't have time to like sit around and plan my whole life because like it's out there. It's time to live it. Now's the time. And so that's like the orange, And then you've got the gold, which is on the opposite spectrum of the orange. It's like, do not spontaneously do anything to me. I need a plan. I need everything on my calendar. I need my checklist. I need to know what's going on. You need to give me the order, a sequence of things. I have to have everything in its place, because if you ever hear somebody say a place for everything and everything has its place, they're gold. You don't even have to ask any other questions. And so then you've got your blue, and the blue is the connected people. This is where like life is all about relationships. Like, who can I help? Because helping is something they need to do. It's like, you know, they have their friends or their family and they never met a stranger. And so then there's the green. And so the green is kind of the opposite spectrum of the blue. And so they're the, you know, take emotions out of decision making. You know, everything has to make sense. It's not about what I feel, it's about what I think. And they're really that logical kind of big picture thinker, putting all the pieces together before they're making the decisions, those kind of things.
Well, I know my mom would love me to be a gold, but I am definitely orange.
Yeah.
But my next question was going to be, what color are you? Which would be really interesting.
Well, so because we are all a spectrum, typically we'll also have an influencing color that's kind of following up the other one. And I am extremely green, but I'm also influenced by a very bright orange. So I'm this green-orange combination, which is nice because certain colors more easily like blend with each other. So there's not a lot of conflict between my orange and my green, with some exceptions. Sometimes I want to go really just spontaneously do something and my green's like, that doesn't really make sense. But, you know, some people who have colors that are on the opposite ends of the spectrum as they're bright and they're influencing, like an orange gold or a gold orange, they have a lot more internal turmoil than maybe somebody who have more agreeable colors. And so like they have this need for structure, but they also have this need for spontaneity and being able to balance the two. I mean, the people I've interviewed so many people to understand what goes on inside of them when they are those, you know, on those different ends of the spectrum that are so close together. And they all say that they have this inner turmoil. And, you know, you being able to help them through that and understand why that's going on has really helped a lot of people, because they're like, I'm not like this bipolar person. Like, it's just because I have two ends of me that are pulling me two different directions. And some of the ways to help with that is just to find out, you know, what area do you want to route that? Like, what area do you want to let your gold be gold? And what area do you want to let your influencing orange just take over? And let yourself start to kind of compartmentalize those a little bit to help that. So that, yeah, in my work, on my desk, I'm going to let myself have all my organization. When it comes to my free time, I'm going to let myself be a little bit more orange or whatever.
Well, you've kind of explained a little bit there how it would help in a workplace, but I wanted to ask specifically in team building, how does that approach help interpersonal relationships, specifically like kind of in the workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, one of the things that I am really passionate about is building trust across teams. Because if you have a team that trusts each other, you're going to work so much more effectively. You're going to have better rapport. You're going to have better, like, just office life. And it's just going to be an all around better functional team. You're going to get better produce, you know, and results. And so what builds trust? Well, number one, you have to actually know the person well enough to know what to expect from them. Because if you always are getting what you're expecting from that person, then you can trust that that's how they're going to respond in the future.
Yeah.
And so when we think about ourselves and think about other people, too often we place what we expect of others by how we would respond. Mm-hmm. And so if we have a person that never responds the way we think they should, we have a hard time trusting them. But what if that person always responds exactly how they should, but they don't respond how we would? Yeah. And that's really just a misunderstanding. It's not actually a problem with trust. And so what we do is we come together and we actually have a workshop, and we can do these virtually now too, which is really cool. And everybody does their assessment in the class, and then we go into the actual workshop part, and they start to get really interactive, and they start to understand themselves and understand each other. And we go around and explain why everybody's having these different answers, and these groups over here are answering all the same way. But when it comes to comparing the two groups, like they are not the same. And everybody walks out of there really understanding, number one, what the colors are and how they function, but then how their teammates are those colors. And so now no longer is this person expecting somebody of what, something of what they would respond, but they're expecting how the other person should respond. And when they do respond that way, they're like, oh, that makes sense, because you would respond that way since you're this color. And they all of a sudden have this like amazing level of understanding, empathy, and all that's necessary for that trust. They have true expectations instead of these ones that are kind of fabricated off of how they think that things should work. And now they say, hey, I know these are your strengths and I know these are your weaknesses based on your color. So I'm not going to expect you to be strong in that area anymore, because I know that doesn't make sense. Like, and man, when people walk out of that room, like they know each other in a completely different way. They have less misunderstandings. They have real, true respect for each other in ways that they never could imagine before.
It's fantastic. I know that in our team, trust is a massive thing. So I think this approach is so phenomenal. I just wanted to ask, what is one of your favorite stories from these workshops? They sound like a really positive influence on workplaces.
Yeah, there's so many, but there's one that I always come back to because it's just so special to me. It really drives home why this is so important. And it actually comes out of a corporate workshop, but it had a personal impact. And so this one lady at the gold table, and I always encourage everybody, if you have an aha moment, which is that moment that it clicks and you're like, oh, that's why, to just share it with the group, because those really start to make other people realize, oh, right, yes, I know this person and that makes sense now. And this one lady stands up in the back. She says, you know what, I just realized that I have not invited my cousin anywhere in the last 30 years because I didn't know her, not because she doesn't like me. So what had happened, and she explains that she's, this lady's very gold, her cousin is clearly very orange. But what would happen is her cousin would call up and say, hey, I'm going on a trip next week. You want to go? And she's like, clearly she doesn't want me to go, because otherwise she would have given me time to plan for this. No, I can't go in a week. Like, that doesn't work, And then she would call her cousin up and be like, hey, I'm going on a trip, like at the end of the year. And her cousin's like, I don't even know if I'll be alive by the end of the year. Like, I mean, I can't tell you that. And of course, the gold person's like taking that as well, she doesn't want to come. And so after this transpired a few times, she just stopped inviting her places. And so 30 years went by where she thought that her cousin didn't like her. And now they're able to make those amends and heal those family bonds that really should never have been broken in the first place, simply because of a misunderstanding of how people approach life based on their temperament.
That's so beautiful. I love stories like that. I just wanted to ask, because I know you mentioned yourself on your website, and I've done a little bit of background. You've worked with places like NASA, you've done work with cancer treatment. I just wanted to ask about those experiences because they sound amazing. As soon as I heard the NASA one, I was like, I have to ask about this.
Sure. Well, it's kind of neat. Sometimes our paths that we think we're going to take in life are not the ones that we end up on, right? It's usually the case. And so sometimes I find that those paths that we take, like because I have a very strong influencing orange, I'm apt to say yes. So if there's a new opportunity, rather than being like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, I'll be like, yes, and figure it out along the way, because that's what orange does. But I find like that the doors that open through that are really powerful, and that maybe people who aren't orange, who aren't apt to naturally do that, might want to start thinking about saying yes, because some of those doors will take you places you never would have imagined. And so one of those for me was to NASA. I had been working in international shipping, And I said, you know what? I'm not quite making enough money. This is before the whole side hustle thing was popular, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna go get a side hustle. So I put my resume out on Monster. Yes, it was that long ago when Monster really still existed. And I said, I can write technical documents. So within a few days, I had a call. They said, hey, we want you to come write some operational documents for us. And I said, no problem. We set up a meeting for me to go get the specs. And so I show up at the meeting. We plan an hour meeting for me to get specs for an operational document, right? I walk in the door, and the very first thing they say is, well, I know that we wanted you to write these operational documents, but we've looked at your resume and we'd really like to hire you full-time permanently. And then they spend the next 30 minutes telling me how great it would be to work at NASA. And I'm like, you're not even interviewing me at all. You're totally trying to like sell me on this job that I haven't even applied for. And then they say, and how much would you like to make? So I said, and I like doubled my salary. And they said, I think we can make that work. I was like, awesome. And I just like acted like it was like natural. And inside, like I've hit the floor and like laying on the floor, right? So I walk out of there going like, did this really even happen? Like, what's going on? And like, sure enough, it really happened. And you know, we went through the HR thing. The next thing you know, I'm working at NASA. I mean, it was just wild. But it's because I said yes. You know, had I not said yes, I'd be like, oh, let me think about it. Like, who knows if that door would have still been open. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to do that for 4 years. I met some amazing people. I learned some really cool things. I had amazing like professional experience that I came out with that really was able to kind of launch me into the next section where I was able to help people more personally. Because, you know, when you're in a healthcare space, even if you're on the IT side, you're still directly impacting patient care at some level, you know? And so I actually got plugged in with the organization. It was an amazing organization. It still is, called Sarah Cannon. And they have a huge presence in the cancer industry, both in the UK and the US. And I got to help build software that helps the specialized nurse navigators walk cancer patients through the journey. And so I got to spend time in London building for them. I got to spend time all over the United States working in different capacities there with just some amazing physicians that are like leading the head of, you know, developing new, you know, immunotherapies and different things to really change the course of the cancer journey for the betterment. So it's been amazing.
That sounds like an absolute roller coaster.
Yes.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. This has been such an amazing experience. Where can people find your book?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get it either on Amazon, anywhere books are sold online. You can also get it through the link on my website. So that's JessieLeePerez.com, Jessie, JessieLee, Perez, Perez.com. And it looks like this. So color by design. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of that book. It's been so fantastic talking to you today. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. Remember to like and subscribe to the Voice YouTube channel. My name has been Amy, and I'll see you in the next video.